Hi, Ryan here, Hiring Guru, with today's hiring tip. Today we're going to talk about if you're using the wrong criteria to evaluate hiring software. Stick around to the end. I'll tell you about this really cool buyer's guide download we've got. It'll basically walk you through comparing and contrasting different software platforms against each other, specifically when it comes to hiring. So end-to-end is all the rage when it comes to software. Payroll, HRIS, applicant tracking, onboarding, all of it from one single provider. It sounds totally awesome. I know all about it because it is the number one reason for us losing clients. They leave Applicant Pro and they move to one of these end-to-end systems because some salesperson called them up on the phone that they currently buy payroll from and convinced them to save some money by switching over to their applicant tracking portion. Or maybe they were sold the entire thing as all one big group. Or the worst ones is when HR didn't even get a say and the accounting team decided that you were switching your applicant tracking system, and it just was what it was. That they said, well, they have applicant tracking, you use applicant tracking, I'm sure it's all the same. The fact is, not only is that our number one source of cancellations, it's also our number one source of returning clients. People who left us for an end-to-end system and then come back 6 months later, or even worse, the company left us for an end-to-end system, their HR person quit, got a job somewhere else, and called us back up to bring us back into their new place of work. The fact of the matter is that what we find is that they aren't running a full review of the value exchange of what's about to happen when they switch systems and looking specifically at potential trade-offs. Look, I'm going to be completely honest with you. Our platform is not the only thing out there, and it's not the best of every platform out there because there's no such thing as the best applicant tracking system. Depending on what you're doing, depending on what's important to you, depending on what you're trying to accomplish, there's a whole bunch of high quality software platforms out there that will help you accomplish it. And some of those might actually be included in an end-to-end system, but some of those end-to-end systems might have applicant tracking systems that won't help you at all. In fact, they'll hurt you. Look, let me tell you the story of how this normally plays out. We have a client who leaves us, big YMCA out here in the West. They leave us for their payroll systems applicant tracking system. What they were told is it's so much better because it's integrated, that when they hire somebody, it will push new hires into their system. It sounds like a great benefit. Here's what the problem is with that, is that you only do that once per hire. But all the other features that you use in integrations like job board integrations and apply integrations and assessment integrations and background check integrations and texting and communication, all of those things might be used 5, 10, even 100 times per hire. Those integrations might actually be more valuable, and when you switch, you lose those. What they found was that within 3 months, half their applicant flow is gone. Just think about that for a minute. The reason why we don't think that through is because, number one, the software salesperson isn't going to tell you that they're going to lose half their applicant flow. In fact, they might not even know that that's what happens. And most employers, even when they do make the switch, don't allocate it to their applicant tracking system. They allocate it to changes in the economy, changes in the job boards, changes in job seeker availability, all those talent shortages, all those kind of things are given the power for the reason why something like applicant flow shifted between one ATS system and the next. But the fact of the matter is, it's actually the ATS system. It's the focus of those systems. If you just think about it for a minute, imagine that each of these software platforms that you're about to look at probably all have only 2 or 3 core focuses that they allocate their money to, that they allocate their product team to, and that their sales team sells on. When it comes to an end-to-end system, their number one core focus is integration, that it is one system. You won't have to push those new hires or retype or data entry or anything like that. That is their number one core focus. They most likely have a strength, maybe it's payroll, maybe it's HRS, whatever, but applicant tracking is most likely something they checked the box on. They built it because they had to, just so they could say it's end-to-end. The flip side, you go into the applicant tracking world, and most of those companies, applicant tracking is their strength. But even inside of that, some of them may be very focused on professional level talent, and they might be all about screening or selection tools. They might be all about the career side and the experience. Or here at Applicant Pro, we're all about applicant flow. How can we maximize the number of applicants that are being generated per job? Because my background's marketing, and I just love the concept of marketing jobs and generating qualified applicants for employers. It's what I love, so therefore it's the focus of our product, which makes it one of its strengths. And so the problem is that as an HR world, we've tended to make applicant tracking a commodity. This is what happens as you buy it over and over by comparing side by side, is that you force all the vendors to kind of check all the boxes. And especially when it comes to something that maybe is on the fringe, like applicant flow, you don't really take that into consideration. You just assume that it will be exactly the same. Here's what most companies give up when they switch from a dedicated, best of breed, focused applicant tracking system to an end-to-end check the box applicant tracking piece. Number one, the number of job boards you post to usually drops dramatically. The number of sourcing options that are available drops dramatically. The apply experience, what it's like for the job seeker, not just pushing to say Indeed or Glassdoor or LinkedIn or ZipRecruiter, but actually allowing the job seeker to apply with their accounts. That usually goes away. The quality of the career site, the shortness of the application, the reduction of that friction when people apply goes away. The ability to do employee referrals and some of those other more robust or text to apply or apply on location, those things start going by the wayside because they weren't that important when it was built. Robust screening, integration, not just with the payroll system, but integration with other vendors like background checks and drug testing and assessments and video interviews and text messaging platforms. All of those integrations tend to go by the wayside again because end-to-end systems focused specifically on the integration pushing a new hire into the payroll and HRIS system. It's their power. It's their core focus. And while that is important, it might actually be less important than all of those other integrations. So what should you do? The very first thing, I don't care what system you buy, you should make sure that you've really thought through what you need from a system. And what this comes down to is starting with number one, make a list of your goals. Go through what it is you're trying to accomplish. Is that applicant flow? Is it screening? Is it maximizing time to hire? Is it reducing cost to hire? Is it about the tracking system and collaboration? Rank those because you're not going to get everything you want. Just like a kid at Christmas, you're going to have to decide what you want the most. So take a list of your goals. Secondly, think through how those things are going to impact your company. What will you do if you don't get those things? Is it flow or experience? What happens if you reduce the experience for your job seekers? How's that going to impact your goal? Break those things down into the features. What specific features are going to drive applicant flow, are going to create a good experience, are going to automate and speed up and make your screening more efficient? What integrations will you need, not just at the end of the hire, but throughout the entire process? What other assessment providers and video interview platforms and any of those things you use are you going to need to interchange or exchange data with this applicant tracking system? Look for measurements, right? Applicants per job is a great one. Not just time to fill and time to hire and turnover, but applicants per job, integration usage, in number of integrations per hire, right? What of those things can you measure in a way so that you'll be able to compare them side by side and so that you'll know when you get done switching whether it got better or worse? Then finally, compare what you have now versus the new system and look for the trade-offs, because trust me, there are going to be trade-offs. Not all of these systems are exactly the same. In fact, none of them are exactly the same. So no matter what you choose, you're going to have some trade-offs. You might be trading off job seeker experience for new hire integration. And that's totally fine if that's the trade-off you're willing to make, but just make sure that you're actually making that decision instead of just finding out later that it happened, that you didn't even realize that it would shift. And that really is the number one goal of this video, is to say, you need to make a plan for how you're going to fill the gaps in the things you're giving up when you switch to a new platform. Because all the real cool new shiny objects you're getting do come at a cost, most likely, of things that you've taken for granted that might go away now. And you're going to have to fill those gaps to fix it, especially if one of those gaps you're filling is applicant flow. Just think about that for a minute. If you switch over to a system that makes it easy to push new hires into the payroll system, but you lose half your applicants, what you're going to end up doing is spending a whole bunch of money on paid ads and sponsored ads and recruiters and other sources of paid traffic to make up for what just happened. And what matters the most is that this was a deliberate choice, that you knew what was coming and that you knew what the trade-offs were and had a plan for how to make up for it so that it wasn't a surprise. So like I said, if you stuck around, I give you a link to an awesome tool. It's called our Buyer's Guide. It will actually help you with this exact process. It will help you identify what your goals are. It'll help you identify what features are important when it comes to those goals so that you can compare systems side by side and decide what your trade-offs are going to be when you pick the one that's best for your organization. So download it from the link below, and until next time, good luck hiring.